What a bizarre game. What can you say about a game like that? Jeez. Where the hell do you start? It was one of the most difficult match reports I've ever had to write. It's so much to say, so many things happening, so much to talk about. Uh, and you see the Christmas tree behind me. So I was going to start off by saying that was Don Himon's Christmas present. Scrum after scrum after scrum after scrum. I think Don would be absolutely salivating at all those scrums there. Although I think the Boks probably overdid it a little bit. But bottom line, they won. They end the year number one in the world rankings. They beat Ireland. Grassie's got his first win in Ireland. So all good, but loads to talk about. A game that saw how many cards? I think it was 6 or 7. I might be wrong. Mostly justified, I must admit. Though there was a couple of lucky guys. Let's start with the lucky guys, the guys who didn't get caught. Sasha Feinberg Mngomezulu was treading a very fine line there. He tucked his shoulder. He didn't wrap. From what we've seen from Franco Mostert and Lourdes Jager, that could easily have been a red card and a permanent red. We've seen in the past, that was my worst fear. I was sitting watching with some family, and we all sort of said, oh my goodness, here we go again. But somehow Matthew Colley said it was, the first initial thing was to the chest and only a penalty. I felt it was justified, but I felt also he was extremely lucky because we've seen so many of those go the other way. And to be very honest, he dodged the bullet there. Irish fans will be seething about that. You can understand it, especially given how many cards they got at the end of the day. But certainly, what a interesting game in a lot of ways, because in my mind it probably cancels out because Tommy O'Brien later on, when Kane and Moody absolutely monstered him in the charge, and he sort of fell out. There was head contact. He was upright in the tackle. So if they had to go through World Rugby's protocol, although he was passive, Tommy O'Brien could easily have got a yellow there. So those two cancelled each other out for me. Andrew Porter and the other props yellow card totally justified. The box scrum monstered them totally. I thought James Ryan was very lucky. If it was the last 2 weeks, we would have seen that as a permanent red because there was head contact with force and his actions were always illegal. Although I think Matthew Cardy probably did the right thing by sending it to the bunker. But if you put it in the context of the last couple of weeks, it certainly would have been a permanent red. So that's where World Rugby have got a problem. And we'll talk about this more tomorrow when we chat to Nick Mallett and them. But just for now, I just thought I'd just say that to me, he was very lucky not to get away with not to get a permanent red. So those are the cards. Eventually, South Africa got a couple of cards at the end there. It didn't really matter much. They were always going to win this game. But there's a lot to talk about in the South African contest. I thought at stage the Boks when they were 24-13 up in the Irish 22, penalty after penalty, yellow card after yellow card, and they sort of try to scrum and scrum and scrum and scrum and scrum and scrum, and they were getting the dominance from it, but they weren't getting the reward, so they weren't putting points on the scoreboard. And while that was great, it almost felt to me, I got this sort of feeling that given the history between these two sides, and this may be a bit of a controversial opinion, but given the history between the two sides, I felt almost like the Boks were trying to hurt Ireland there. Trying to cause lasting damage, trying to inflict some pain that would last for a long time. I think they overdid it a bit. They should have concentrated more on getting the points on the board. They could have taken penalties a number of times, put themselves well beyond reach, and had Ireland chasing the game a lot more. But they didn't. They went for the scrum and the scrum and scrum, and so they sort of almost played into Ireland's hands, because we've all seen it before with other teams. When the team's heavily on the losing side, and every time they stop a side that's so dominant, they sort of grow in confidence. And the fans were behind them, the crowd was behind them, and they were egging them on. And that's almost what caused those last 10 minutes, in my view. So the Boks didn't put them away. They didn't land that knockout punch. And that was a big part of the problem there. They had so much dominance. We haven't seen a Springboks side so dominant over Ireland in years. And this certainly was one where they could have won by 30 points. If they'd been more clinical, they would have won by 30 points. This Ireland side has got problems. and the Boks couldn't put them away. The Boks won't be too concerned about this. I think this was more personal for the Boks. I got this feeling that this was sort of to avenge the World Cup victory, for Ireland, the win in Durban. There was a lot more personal at stake. You could see it between the players. There was a lot of niggle between the players a lot of the time. But yeah, they could have put them away and they didn't. And that gave Ireland hope. Ireland, for their credit, are a side that fight for survival. The Irish people, have got a long history of fighting for survival. That fighting spirit, fight for Ireland. Munster's songs would stand up and fight. We see that a lot. And that's the thing with them. The Irish people, that sort of very much like South Africa in a lot of ways, that backs to the wall, fighting for your survival, and that really fueled them on. And credit to Ireland, they're a good team. They're an aging team. They're a team that I'm not sure is going to be around in the same sort of capacity in 2 years' time. I don't think they're going to be the same sort of force in 2 years' time at the World Cup. The Springboks will definitely grow. I'm not sure Ireland will grow that much. Their players have shown some weaknesses. There's some chinks in that armour, and I think in 2 years' time they'll be quite vulnerable, to be very honest. But saying that, on the night, the Springboks opened with a great try by Damien Willem, so they really unlocked the space, something they haven't been able to do against Ireland. If you remember Durban, it was 8 penalties by Handré Pollard. There certainly was a lack of try-scoring ability by the Springboks, and not tonight. Tonight they could have scored probably 5 or 6 more. They had 1 or 2 disallowed, certainly a lot more on the table. And they certainly unlocked Ireland's defence. And Ireland, to their credit, they tried every trick in the book. They probably broke every rule in the book as well at the same time, in sort of surviving. But they survived. And it's hard for a referee like Matthew Carley. I know if you're Irish and you're watching this, you're probably going to hate Matthew Carley. But when a team sort of gives away so many penalties and oversteps the mark so many times, what does a referee do? They have to give cards. And that was... The fact that the Boks couldn't take the dominance of that and turn that into points and put them away is something that will be debated. As I say, I don't think on tonight's performance it will be too much cared because the Springboks wanted the victory more than anything else. But I think in the long run it probably will. But I think this has done some damage, not lasting damage like the Boks would probably wanted, but it's done some damage in terms of the World Cup. 2 years out, the Boks will get stronger. Ireland have some problems. They have some questions. Their front row, as good as they are, they're not going to stand up to this onslaught in 2 years in the World Cup as well, and the Boks are only going to get stronger. That said, we should still be celebrating a great victory for the Springboks. They're unbeaten on this tour. They're doing very well. The guys who stood out tonight, Sasha was great again, Kobus Reinach was great again, Jasper Wiese, Pieter Steph de Toy, the props, the front five, the tight five, they were exceptional on the evening. Lots of props to them as well. And certainly everybody played well. And again, it feels like a bit of a disappointment because they didn't put them away. But a victory is a victory, and this was a game this one and the France game, we were really worried about. And we've seen the Boks put away France, the All Blacks, and Argentina in that second half. The fact they couldn't do it against Ireland probably has a lot to do with that Irish grit and the Boks probably overplaying a bit. But still, a great victory all around. So that's my quick take. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow with Nick and Gav. We'll chat again about that as well. But this is the quick take from here. Merry Christmas. I know it's a bit early to say that Mariah Carey hasn't thawed 100% yet, but the Christmas tree is up, so we should all feel a bit festive there. And have a good evening. It's been a great weekend of rugby, and the Springboks can look forward to ending off their tour against Wales next week with a big win. And I think they probably will post a big win against Wales. But tonight, the fact they couldn't plant a knockout blow, maybe a little bit concerning, but the win was more important than anything else. Thanks for watching. Chat to you again. Cheers.